কেন প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্যটা? কাহা মোরা স্বরূপ রূপ, কাহা সনাতন? কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ পতিত পাবন? কাহা দাস রঘুনাথ আর কাহা মোরা বাট্ট যোগ, কাহা কবেরা? কাহা মোরা বাট্ট যোগ, এক কালে কোথা গেলা গৌর নটরা? এক কালে আমি পাশানে কো দেব মাতা, অনলে পাশিবা পাশানে কো আর গৌরাঙ্গা গো নেরান দে কোথা গেলে পাব? গৌরাঙ্গা গো গেলে পাব? সেসব সঙ্গের সঙ্গে যে কইল বেলা, আর সেসব সঙ্গের সঙ্গে যে কইল বেলা, সে সঙ্গ না পায়া কান্দে নরোত্তম দাস, সে সঙ্গ না পায়া জয়ানীল প্রেম ধন করুণা প্রাচ জয়ানীল প্রেম ধন হরণ প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্য হরণ প্রভু কোথায় জয় ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর আচার্য ঠাকুর ভক্তিবিনোদ ঠাকুর আচার্য ঠাকুর জয় ভক্তিবিনোদ জয় গদাধর পণ্ডিত জয় আচার্য ঠাকুর গদাধর পণ্ডিত জয় আচার্য ঠাকুর জয় গদাধর পণ্ডিত জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ 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 ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন কুঞ্জ বুবুম চল গৌরব নাম নব কন্দময়ম পত গৌরেশ্চরে তানি মুদা চল গৌরভরম ঋতু গৌরপদঙ্কিত গঙ্গাততম লত গৌরপদঙ্কিত গঙ্গাতত ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন কুঞ্জ বেদম ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন স্মর গৌর-গদাধর কেলিকালম স্মর গৌর-গদাধর ভব গৌর-গদাধর পক্ষচর গদ শ্রেণু গৌর-গদাধর চারুকতম শ্রেণু গৌর-গদাধর ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন কুঞ্জ বেদম ভজ গোদ্রুম ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন কুঞ্জ বেদম ভজ গোদ্রুম কানন কুঞ্জ বেদম।
Please go to the forest of Lord Gaura, divided into 9 islands. Please read and recite with great joy the pastimes of Lord Gaura Hari. Please roll about in ecstasy on the bank of the river Ganga, marked with the footprints of Lord Gaura. Amazing. Every day. Yeah. It just needs to be tightened here. That's all. Thank you. Please roll about in ecstasy. Is it on? Okay. On the bank of the river Ganga, marked with the footprints of Lord Gaura, and just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. Just remember the artistically playful pastimes of Gaura and Gadadhar. Just become a loyal follower of Gaura and Gadadhar's camp. Just listen to the captivating stories of Gaura and Gadadhar, and just worship the beautiful moon of Godruma's forest bowers. So this is only 2 slokas of a 20 sloka bhajan that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in Glorification of the beautiful pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Gadadhar in the forest of Godruma Dweep. So this sloka for today we're taking from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 10, verse 15. Parasaka Gadhara Pandita Gosai Teno Lakshmi Rupa Tara Samakehanai Parasaka Gadadhara Pandita Gosai Teno Lakshmi Rupa Tanra Samakehenai Parasaka Gadadhara Pandita Gosai Teno Lakshmi Rupa Samakehanai. Mataji's? Synonyms: Barasaka, big branch. Gadadhar Pandit Gosai, the descendants or disciplic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. Tenho, Gadadhar Pandit. Lakshmi Rupa, incarnation of the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Tandra, his. Sama, equal. Keha, anyone. Nai, there is none. Translation: Gadadhar Pandit, the 4th branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one therefore can equal him. We can repeat together. Gadadhar Pandit, the fourth branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one therefore can equal him. Purport. In the Gaura-Gadadhara Deepika 147 to 53, it is stated, the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna, formerly known as Vrindavaneshwari, is now personified in the form of Sri Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to the Lord as Shyamasundar Ballabha. The same Shyamasundar Ballabha was present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit. Formerly as Lalita Sakhi, she was always devoted to Srimati Radharani. Thus Gadadhar Pandit is simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. In the 12th chapter of this part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of the descendants or disciplic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. This Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 10:15. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the holy dham of Navadvip, his associates, his eternal associates, also appeared with him. And along with those associates came his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani, in the form of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. So his appearance was just near the house of Jagannath Mishra. And his mother and Sachimata were very dear friends. In fact, his mother, whose name was Sri Ratnavati Devi, considered Srimati Sachi Devi to be just like her elder sister. So she was always consulting with her. And naturally, the two children would play together even from their infancy. So Sri Gadadhar Pandit, he appeared 1 year after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit. So in their childhood, they played together. And then when they went to school at Gangadas Pandit's toll, they also studied together. Along with them were other associates of the Lord, such as Mukunda Datta and others. So this childhood pastimes of the Supreme Lord with Gadadhar Pandit endeared them to each other, and Gadadhar Pandit found it difficult to be separated even one moment from Nimai Pandit. They were always together playing. Nimai Pandit used to tease Gadadhar Pandit by giving him logical questions that he couldn't answer. So sometimes Gadadhar would have to remove himself from Nimai's association because Gadadhar by nature was very sober and grave and enjoyed solitude. Whereas Nimai Pandit, he was very chanchal and fickle and loved to play tricks. So the two of them, although very different in natures, were inseparable even from their childhood. Now, at one point, Ishwara Puri, the disciple of Madhavendra Puri, while traveling throughout India, he came to Navadvip. He stayed at the home of Gopinathacharya. And at that time, Gadadhar Pandit met Ishwara Puri, and Ishwara Puri endeared himself to Gadadhar Pandit, and he began tutoring him in a book that he had written entitled Sri Krishna Lilamrita. So directly from Srila Ishwara Puri, Gadadhar Pandit heard in his youth the beautiful pastimes of Sri Krishna. Then Ishwara Puri went on. He only spent a few months there in Navadvip. And he also would visit the home of Sachimata at that time. Sachimata would feed him. And when Lord Chaitanya later met Ishwara Puri to take Diksha from him, Ishwara Puri remembered all the detailed preparations that Sachimata used to cook for him at her home. So there was a very endearing relationship, even from an early age, between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ishwara Puri, and Gadadhar Pandit. Now, because Mukunda Datta and Gadadhar Pandit were classmates and close friends, they used to enjoy going to see saintly persons who were visiting Navadvip, because Navadvip at that time was one of the most prominent centers for learning. So many saintly persons used to come there for debates, for study, and for giving discourses. So at one point, Mukunda Datta, who originally was from Chittorgarh, he lived about 10 kilometers away from one great saintly person named Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi at one time came to visit Navadvip. And Mukunda Datta told Gadadhar that a very great saintly person has come. You have to come and hear from him along with me. So when they went together, Gadadhar Pandit, who by nature was so austere and simple and sober, when he saw Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was sitting in soft cushions with spittoons, he was chewing pan, he had servants fanning him on each side, he had perfumed oil in his hair, Gadadhar Pandit became completely bewildered because this saintly person appeared to be an ordinary materialist. And he couldn't understand why Mukunda Datta had brought him to see this materialist named Pundarik Vidyanidhi. But Mukunda, he understood the elevated nature of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he began singing one sloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:2-23. This sloka was sung by Uddhava to Vidura just after Krishna left the planet. Aho bhaki yam stana kalakutam, jigamsaya payayad apyasadvi, lebe gatim datri uchitam tatonyam, kamba dayalum sharanam brajema. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than him, Lord Krishna, who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putana, although she was faithless and had prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, although he was sitting very peacefully with his servants attending him, when he heard this sloka sung by Mukunda Datta, he went into, it was beyond an ecstatic trance. He started to roll on the floor. All of the spittoons and the cushions and the asans and all the people were thrown into disarray because he had completely lost his external consciousness, and he was just remembering the causeless mercy of Sri Krishna. Finally, he fell unconscious, and all the servants were trying to bring him back to consciousness, waving him, putting water on him, but he was in such a deep trance, meditating upon Sri Krishna and his mercy to a she-demon named Putana, that Gadadhar Pandit realized at that time, mentally he had committed an offense to this great Mahashai. So he told Mukunda Datta that I was thinking that this was a materialist, and to atone for my offense, I feel I should take shelter by taking Diksha from this great devotee. So when finally Pundarik Vidyanidhi came back to consciousness, Datta introduced who Gadadhar Pandit was and implored him to accept him as his disciple. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi, in his humility, he said, after many births, that one can receive such a qualified disciple. Now it turned out that in Radha Krishna Leela, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was none other than Vrishabhanu Maharaj, the father of Srimati Radharani. So this was a very natural relationship between Gadadhar Pandit and Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now, during the early pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not display Vaishnava sentiments. He was a logician, a rhetorician. He loved to debate and argue. And it was only when he visited Gaya after his father left this world. The system is to go to Gaya and take the blessings there from the Pandits and from the Vishnupada, the lotus feet of Vishnu who are residing there, for the soul of one's father. And there again he met Ishwara Puri. And hearing from him, he developed, although he's the Supreme Lord, this Vaishnava mentality. And he took Diksha from Ishwara Puri there in Gaya. So this Diksha mantra that was given to him and the instructions that were given to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time changed his life, and he began to manifest all of the transcendental characteristics of a pure devotee, a Vaishnava. Now he had warned Gadadhar Pandit before he left, because Gadadhar Pandit would try to avoid him when he was in that debating mood. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that you just wait. One day I will become such a great Vaishnava that even Brahma and Shiva will bow down to me. So this was his mood at that time. But when he came back, it turned out that actually he had completely transformed into a Vaishnava, feeling constant separation from Sri Krishna. And it was only Gadadhar who was able to pacify him when he was in these moods of intense separation from the Supreme Lord. So one day, Gadadhar, he was bringing tambula to Nimai, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his home. And Mahaprabhu was crying and in great separation from Shyam Sundar. And he asked Gadadhar, what should I do? And Gadadhar told him, Krishna's in your heart. So Mahaprabhu, he started to tear open his chest to find Krishna in his heart. And Gadadhar grabbed his hands and asked him to just be patient. So Nimai told him, but if he's in my heart, I want to take him out, I want to see him. And Gadadhar very peacefully explained to him, you just be patient and the Lord will appear to you when he chooses to. So Sachimata was watching this exchange, and she saw how Gadadhar Pandit was able to pacify Mahaprabhu, because after he came back from Gaya, some people thought that he had been haunted by a ghost. Some people thought that he had gone mad because of his complete change of character. But she saw that Gadadhar was able to keep him peaceful. So she requested Gadadhar at that time. She ordered him, you should always stay by the side of Nimai, because you're the only one who can keep him peaceful. So this is now ordained by Mother Sachi, that they should always stay together. So now that Nimai had returned, he began his Sankirtan Leela all throughout the groves of Nadia. And when the Lord was performing his Navadip Leela, his chief assistant was Gadadhar. And those who in Vrindavan were the gopis and the gopas, they would take part in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip by performing kirtan. So whoever was present is present eternally with the Supreme Lord in Goloka Vrindavan as Gopas and Gopis and different associates of the Lord, they descended to take part in the pastimes of the Navadvip Leela manifested here on this planet. They had different forms. Many of the Gopis, the Manjaris, they now had male forms by which they could take part in the kirtan of Lord Chaitanya. So they would follow Lord Chaitanya as he performed Sankirtan all throughout Navadvip. They who in Vrindavan are Radha Krishna take the form of Gaura-Gadadhara in these pastimes in Navadvip on the banks of the Ganga. So here we have the beginning of a relationship between Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Shri Gaura-Gadadhara. Because in Navadvip, Radha and Krishna are worshipped as Gaura-Gadadhara. And at the Yog Pit, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovered the real birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he installed the deities of Sri Gaura-Gadadhara. Those who Gopas and Gopis, whoops, wrong play. Now, as Gaura-Gadadhara and the other associates were performing their pastimes in Navadvip, which is non-different from Vrindavan, one day they came to a beautiful grove on the banks of the Ganga. And naturally, Lord Chaitanya was remembering his Vrindavan Leela there. So he sat Sri Gadadhara down at the root of a tree, and he sat along with him. And all of the associates, including the other members of the Panchatattva, Advaitacharya performed the arti, Srivas decorated them with flowers, Mukunda Datta sang beautiful songs, other devotees danced for them, and in that way, all the associates of Lord Chaitanya worship Gaura-Gadadhara together. Now, for those who engage in the Leela Smaranam of the devotees, they remember these pastimes together because each one of the associates of Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani in Goloka have their counter personalities in Gaura Leela. And all of them are situated in the Yog Pit during this worship of either Radha and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan or Gaura-Gadadhara in Navadvip. So I'm just going to read a description so we can hear all of the different associates. Just as formerly in Vrindavan, Shri Radha used to decorate Lord Krishna, in the same way Gadadhar decorated the holy form of Lord Gauranga. At length, Gauranga sat Gadadhar down at the root of a tree, which served as a raised platform. Sri Advaitacharya performed the arti to the two of them. Sri Nityananda Prabhu was seated on the left of them. Srivas Pandit Prabhu was taking flowers and decorating them. Narahari was waving the chamara. Suklambar was offering chandan. We remember a few days ago we heard about Suklambar Brahmachari, that's Sudama Brahman in Gaura Leela. So he was right there also in this Leela. Murari Gupta was singing glories to the Lord. Madhava Vasudev Purushottam Vijaya Mukunda, as well as others, sang different songs in various ragas. So when we have our Gaura Arti at night, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he created this Gaura Arti that we sing, and this is the Gaura Arti, this Gaura-Gadadhara that's being worshipped. Of course, we take it as the Gauranga Mahaprabhu Arti, but this is the original time when the worship went on. So at his place of bhajan in Godrumadweep, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur finally retired, of course we'll hear the life story of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in a few minutes. When he was finally freed from his official life, he made his home at Godrumadweep, just on the other side of the Jalangi from Mayapur. And there also he installed Gaura-Gadadhara. The name of his bhajan stali was Svananda Sukhada Kunja. As I behold the wondrous arti of my Lord's Gaura-Gadadhara, I enter into the mood of their existence previous to appearing in Nadia. It is simply indescribable. So many of the bhajans that were created by Bhaktivinoda Thakur are in worship of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar. And in our temple also, of course, Srila Prabhupada, he established the Panchatattva with Gadadhar on his left side of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda on the right side, and then Shivas Pandit, Narada Muni, and Advaita Chandra there as Panchatattva. So all of the Vaishnavas accept the position of Sri Gadadhar as the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his Sannyasa Leela, Gadadhar also took the renounced order of life, and he accompanied him to Jagannath Puri. And there, he accepted a very particular type of sannyas called Kshetra sannyas, where he vowed to never leave the holy dham of Jagannath Puri and engage in worship of the Gopinath deity there in Jagannath Puri. So when Lord Chaitanya decided to visit Brajadam, naturally Gadadhar Pandit wanted to go along with him because they had never been separated their whole life. But Gaur Hari refused to allow him to go. He said, "You've taken your Kshatriya sannyas, you must stay here and worship Sri Gopinath." So in great separation, he had to stay in Puri while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled. Although Gadadhar Pandit was barely 48, now when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned and continued his pastimes in Jagannath Puri, the Antya Leela, at the early age of 48, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world. And some say that at the time of his disappearance, he was in the temple of Sri Gopinathji, and he entered into the murti of Gopinath. So one of the disciples of, actually we had gone there to Puri in 1975 and visited the temple of Gopinathji, and the Pujari also told us the same thing, but we had never heard that from Srila Prabhupada. So when we returned to Srila Prabhupada, one devotee asked Prabhupada, "Is it true that Lord Chaitanya entered into the murti of Gopinath?" And Prabhupada, he said, "Some devotees say that, and other devotees say that he was killed by the Audiyas." So there's a controversy how Lord Chaitanya actually disappeared. Then it's also said that in separation from Gaur Hari, Gadadhar Pandit, he became very old at an early age out of separation from the Lord. Now, previously, Gadadhar Pandit, he would regularly give Bhagavatam discourses. Lord Chaitanya would come to hear these discourses every day, and they would float in ecstasy, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam together. But now that Lord Chaitanya had left the world, Sri Gadadhar, he just could not live anymore. And he became old very quickly. And he was unable to do the worship of Gopinath. He could not even raise himself to put the garland on Gopinath. So one day, Gopinath, in order to assist his pujari in doing the service, he sat down. This is the only sitting deity you'll ever find of Sri Krishna. And then Gadadhar Pandit was able to continue his worship. And it's stated also that at the time of his disappearance, he as well entered into the murti of Sri Gopinath. This is Gopinathji sitting accompanied by his consorts, Srimati Radharani, Srimati Lalita Devi. Here in Vrindavan, we have a special samadhi of Sri Gadadhar, It's just go down the road from go to Radharaman Temple, Bansi Gopal Temple, you turn right, and there's the Danta Samadhi of Sri Gadadhar Pandit. His tooth is embedded there as a samadhi, so everyone can take darshan there if they like to. So now we will continue. Today is also the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he appeared in the district of Nadia, in a place called, at that time it was called Ulagram, now it's called Bir Nagar, in the house of his grandfather, the parental home of his family. His family lineage comes from Narottam Das Thakur. So the family originally was Vaishnava, although both the father and the mother's side, they were not practicing Vaishnavism, not by their own fault, but just because of the decline of Vaishnavism at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance. Because by that time, the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been perverted by the various Upasampradayas. And the Jata Gosais and the Smarta Brahmins had taken a hold of the initiation ceremonies, and the actual teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were not being strictly followed anywhere. Later, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted to research the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could not even find a version of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's how completely lost the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had become. So in his own village of Ulagram, he did his first studies at a school that was started by his grandmother. They were very prestigious, very respectable family. And then later, he studied in Krishnanagar at an English school. So he began studying English at an early age. And this is because at that time, there was the British rule. And if anyone wanted to get a good occupation, it would have to be under the British. So they would have to learn English. So English was very much influenced in one's education. But he had to come back from Krishnanagar because his elder brother died of cholera, and he had to help his mother. And at that time also, soon after, his father died, and then died. And there was great family turbulence, because although they had a magnificent home and they were known as very wealthy, after the father died, it turned out that there was no money to go on. And the house even, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even at a young age, he had to figure out how to protect this huge mansion. There were so many guards, but he was always afraid that thieves would be coming. He had to give the guards dandas at night. And there was no money anyway. So his uncle, who lived in Calcutta, who was very scholarly, both in English, Sanskrit, Bengali, he convinced Bhaktivinoda's mother to let him come to Calcutta to get a good education. And finally, Bhaktivinoda returned to Ulagram and brought his mother and his paternal grandmother to Calcutta with him. His sister also died of cholera. Now, cholera, nowadays, we can easily cure cholera. It's a severe form of diarrhea created by one tiny little bacteria. But in those days, there was no antibiotics. So when there was an epidemic, whole villages would be wiped out. Sometimes millions of people would die of cholera because it was so severe that within 8 hours, just by dehydration, people could die. So the whole village of Bir Nagar, everyone was dying from this cholera. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur shifted his mother and grandmother. His sister also died. Everyone in the family died. The only two left were the mother and grandmother. He brought them to Calcutta. And there he began very deep studies. His close friends were the brothers, the elder brothers of Rabindranath Tagore, and he studied with them. He had very good association in his studies. He went to the Hindu college and because of the influence of his uncle, got a very good education, and he began studying the different world philosophies and religions. Although he was trying to find the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, he had nowhere that he could go to because Vaishnavism was considered quite deplorable in those days because of the Apasampradayas. So finally, with much endeavor, he was able to come in contact with the Vaishnava teachings. And how this happened was his paternal grandfather, who lived in Orissa, he had taken sannyas and was living a very austere life. And he requested Bhaktivinoda to come and spend his last days with him. And there his grandfather ordered him to visit all of the holy places and the mats and the temples all throughout Orissa. Now in Orissa, Vaishnavism was very powerful because of the influence of Jagannath and all of the major temples there. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by the grace of his grandfather and by visiting all of these temples, he was able to come in contact with Vaishnavism. And he had a change within his heart. Now he was all alone. He was the person who had to maintain his family. His mother had gotten him married when he was 12 years old to a 5-year-old girl. I'm forgetting this is his home in Birnagar. This is him as a young man when he went to Calcutta. So, of course, a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old, they don't live together, nor do they have children. But finally, after a certain number of years, he had his first little son, Anaradatta. But 10 months later, the mother died. And now he had the family plus a 10-month-old little son. So he remarried Bhagavati. And with her, he had 13 more children. So as the family grew, of course he had to maintain them, and he had to decide, because he was an educated person, what type of occupation he would have. He did not want to go into mercantile, because he saw how degraded the people were just to make money. So he decided he would become an English teacher, which was something that had not yet entered Orissa, because he brought the family to Orissa at that time. So he became an English teacher, and he moved his way up to headmaster, and finally he got the attention of some government officers because his English was so good. And he was given 6th grade, it's the lowest standard, 7th, 6th grade, a government post. And the government was constantly moving him between Orissa, Bihar, and Bengal. Because of that constant moving, he also learned Urdu and Farsi, and he became quite instrumental in the government workings because of all the languages that he knew, especially because of his proficiency in English. So he worked his way up in the ranks till finally he became a second grade officer. And that meant that he could become deputy, district magistrate, collector, and he had very prominent positions at that time. And that also gave him ability. So now that he had his family stable, and for 5 years he was the deputy district magistrate in Puri, he was now able to spend his time on his theological and Vaishnava pursuits. And at this time he increased his writing. He wrote over 100 books in Sanskrit, Bengali, and English. And he decided, as he grew more in his understanding of Vaishnava theology, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted this theology of Krishna consciousness to be spread all over the world. So he started sending his books to the philosophers and the great professors in the universities in other countries, in Germany, in England, in Australia, in Canada, and in America. And he was getting good reviews from these philosophers. So this was giving him much encouragement, and he started then different organizations. The Vaishnava Raja Sabha, which was the World Association of Vaishnavas, and he made then his headquarters in Calcutta, which happened to also be the capital of the British Raj. So that way he would have a very cosmopolitan opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness from Calcutta. So one of his children, we know, the seventh son, was Bimala Prasad, who became Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And he was born at the time when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was stationed in Puri. And he saw Bimala Prasad as the ray of Vishnu, because he had prayed to Lord Jagannath, prayed to Bimala Devi, his consort, that you please send one of your own men to assist me in this preaching. So he took particular interest in training Bimala Prasad in his mission of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. And he imbibed in Bimala Prasad the very essence of the mission of Krishna consciousness, which he carried on, and which was later carried on by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. So this was all happening in Calcutta. Now, these are pictures of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. These pictures actually were collected by our Bhaktivedanta Research Center. They have about a whole portfolio of these pictures of Bhaktivinoda Thakur from the time that he was a government officer to the time that he finally retired, and he was able to take up his life in both in Godrumadweep and in Puri. And there in Puri, he made his bhajan kutir. Now that bhajan kutir is called Bhakti Kutir, and that is now under the auspices of ISKCON. Bhakti Kutir in Puri is just diagonally across from the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur. And it was at this place that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gave up all of his worldly activities. In the year 1908, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur took Babaji Vesh from Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He then confined himself to his residence at Bhakti Kutir, executing solitary bhajan. He absorbed himself in uninterrupted meditation upon the eternal pastimes of the Lord, and mentally rendered menial service unto the divine couple, Shri Radha Krishna. So this is the meditation of one in Babaji Vesh, that they meditate on the Astakaliya Leela, and he took that particular type of renunciation. These are the deities at the Bhakti Kutir. And then finally, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he could not just sit in meditation, because he knew that he had a very important task to perform for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he returned to Calcutta, to his Bhakti Bhavan. And there, he had a printing press, he was producing the Harmonist, he was printing all of his books, he was printing the works of the Sadgosai, and he was giving commentaries on all of the literatures of the Goswamis, including Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prolific writing was going on there in Calcutta, and he was teaching his son how to carry on the publishing work. So on the 23rd of June, 1914, which corresponds to this very day, On the disappearance day of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur left his body at Bhakti Bhavan, his residence in Calcutta, and entered the eternal pastimes of Lord Gaura-Sundar. The remains of his body were taken back to his beloved Swananda Sukhada Kunja in Godrumadweep, where they were placed in Samadhi. So his ashes were taken in an urn, and this is the picture of when those ashes were placed in Samadhi at Godrumadweep. And I'm sure many of you had visited his Samadhi stall there, and the beautiful temple of Shri Gaura-Gadadhara that he established. So all of these places of pastimes, they're very dear to the Vaishnavas, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was the pioneer in this age for carrying on the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Had it not been for his endeavors, for his erudition, we would have never gotten the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in its pure form. So therefore, on this day, we'll be having the Pushpanjali, and we should all take our deep commitments at the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and thank him for dedicating his life so that we could all come under the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet and carry on the service of Bhaktivinoda Thakur by spreading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya all over the world, because this was his desire, and this is what he instilled in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who instilled also in Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we have 1 or 2 minutes left. Excuse me? Oh, the identity of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur?
Yeah.
Well, according to the internet, what can I say? He was Kamala Manjari, and he and his wife had taken Diksha, because even before he took Diksha, he was writing, and he was lecturing, and the others, the Smarta Brahmins, the Jata Goswamis, they were objecting that you're not even Diksha yet. So how can you preach? So he, along with his wife, took Diksha from Bipin Bihari Goswami, who was in the line of Bansi Badan Thakur, who was one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. According to Gaura-Ganadhara Dipika, Bansi Badan Thakur was the flute of Krishna. So in that line, and in the Vesh, the Babaji Vesh, they accept Manjari Bhav, and according to the different authorities, depends who you read, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Kamala Manjari. Okay? Thank you. We avoid those subject matters in public classes because we want to concentrate on the preaching mood rather than the bhajan mood. Excuse me? Any other questions? Okay, we're exactly on time. All glories to Shri Gaura-Gadadhara. All glories to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahashaya. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Krishna